Hello, it is once again It was from the brand's finest. Sorry about the finger there. And yeah, I'm here in Florida right now with a good friend of mine. And what do you have for us today, good sir?
Today I have an excellent Infernity build.
Alright, explain why you chose to go with Infernity. So now you've been playing this deck for a long ass time.
I've been playing this deck since Trish was out, and I think that this deck is extremely effective still. I mean, it switched from Synchros to Xyz, people make that random randomizer build, whatever. I didn't like the Xyz build at first, but I realized I gotta conform to the meta, I gotta make something good, something that works. The Bubble Chain's a really awesome card. So let's build something really, really OP, and people are really, really pissed at because it's the only deck left with solid judgments. So I think that
and there's a video bomb.
Oh, I think that Infernities will do really good at the moment because mainly the dragons are gone now. Well, they're not gone. But that was the deck that this deck had the worst matchup against. So this format is definitely going to be much more versatile to use in the long run. Alright. So for the deck profile, I have 40 cards. Everything should have that. You don't run the tuners. You just run the 6 Infernity cards, staples, Infernity Archfiends, playset.
Yep.
Infernity Necromancer, playset.
So why?
The Archfiends are the search card, obviously. Top deck Archfiend, win. Special summon, special summon.
He's pretty much the win button for the deck.
Yeah, but and Necromancer is what gets him back. Everything that makes you go off, everything that makes you go where you gotta go.
So it's your backup win button.
Oh yeah.
Hey, loser.
Yeah, it's her deck.
She's bad at it.
Anyways, so why not stuff like Avenger? Because even though it's a tuner, you can still potentially make use of it.
Well, for one, Invernities have an extremely low monster count in the long run. If you were to run a higher monster count, aka running the Avenger, one would clog up your extra deck significantly. And I prefer for the extra deck to be as monotone as possible. If you're going into like 3, you're only going to have room for maybe a couple rank 4 Xyz monsters, whereas I'd rather just have room for as many Xyz as you need and not have to think of the pesky synchros that have to be put on the side.
Alright, and why no Mirage?
Mirage,
I know he's another launcher, more or less, but...
Well, because it has the problem of... Same thing as Necromancer, basically, but it's a little bit more capitalize-y. If you draw Mirage and you activate it, if they DD Crow something, or Valor, it just kind of sits there, or it goes to the graveyard with no good for you. So I'd rather have a defense mode 2000 beat stick on the field than a 0 attack point target for my opponent to beat the shit out of.
Alright, that's fair enough point.
For the easy summoning and send to the graves, I have double Stygian.
Why is that other one not secret?
I don't like to talk about that. I have double Summoner Monk because the spell count's relatively high enough for you to be able to use Summoner Monk. If you have no hand and you dump your cards, you're able to use Summoner Monk, you get off your plays, and yeah, you open up Summoner Monk, you basically win. Because then you get to go off into every single chain play you can possibly think of, etc, etc. And it also summons Archfiend if you just want to make an Archfiend really easily. Other targets for Summoner Monk include the other 2 monsters, which are also my Rhoda targets, which are Armageddon Knight and Dark Grepher. I only run one of each because Armageddon Knight works in certain circumstances, whereas Grepher works in the other, and you'd rather have one over the other on certain occasions, and they can both be summoned by Monk.
Fair enough points. I have, actually nothing, but any reason for hand traps? Since you can pitch those typically on your own turn.
Again, hand traps are just something that's more bulky. If you want Valors, you might as well just run Breakthrough Skills. Breakthrough Skills are a great replacement for Valor. That can be used twice, and it can also work outright. Furthermore, hand traps are irrelevant when you have 3 Solemn Judgments back row.
That's a fair enough point. Alright. So that doesn't
for my spell's relatively high, but I'd like to start with triple Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality, because this deck, if you get a bad hand, you want to set up a lot and then just guard yourself until you're able to pull off the OTK that it may or may not be able to pull off.
So would you say Duality in Infernity is kind of like Duality in Card and Heretic? Kind of like the same logic?
Sort of. Maybe
it's like just set up a play.
Duality works very similar to what it does used to do in Hero Beat. Except for the fact that this deck uses Monk, which means Duality can be used for more than just what it actually is. It can just be used as a cost. Same thing with the double Upstart that I'm about to show you. These are basically my draw cards. Upstart's actually more effective. Unfortunately, when you use Upstart, you don't want to draw into the Archfiend. Remember that. It misses the timing. You want to be careful with that sort of thing.
So is there any reason only 2, not 3? Or is it just
Actually, it's just because of personal preference.
Okay.
I feel like the draw cards are too bulky, and I only side maybe 5 or 6 anyway. And for this, I have triple MST. I have triple MST, which I use for back row destruction, which this deck can really use when I'm low on barriers or on end phase too. So then they have less protection when I'm working on a harder spectrum. Spectrum being like, I'm going to top deck Archfiend next turn, they have 1 back row, it's probably a warning, I'll activate the MST so I can get the Archfiend off and start going off and do things with Trick. My next cards would be the double instant fusion. When you don't have Monk and you have one of them, you get a Knights of the Dark Grepher. It's very good to use instant fusion to get your Darkfire Dragon, which is in the extra deck, which you'll see in a moment.
So, isn't the extra deck a bit tight for instant fusion, or do you just feel like it's...
I'm able to add a 1, 3, and 4 target. After adding all of the generic rank 4s and some of the rank 3s, you're able to make room for 1 or 2. Like, it's not like I'm going to run like double Cowboy or something. At least in my opinion. Special cards like Staple, Book of Moon. Staple, Foolish Burial sends things to the grave for Necromancer or sends a Stygian to summon the Archfiend from your hand. Rhoda searches out cards or it's a Summoner Monk target. Easy card to side out. And then Launcher, obvious staple because it special summons 2 Infernities or sends 1 to the grave.
AKA the reason why Infernities were so good.
And since it says up to 2, it's not like Mirage in the sense, it's similar, whereas Mirage has to get 2, this can only get 1. So if you are low on resources, you can just get like 1 Archfiend.
I learned that last night from playing this deck.
Of course. And here's some special text like One Day Falling Down, Lance, and Transmodify.
Okay, so... Okay, so why only 1 Transmodify?
1 Transmodify because I believe if you draw into it, it's an okay thing. If you top deck into it and you have nothing, it's not a very good card, so it's easy to side out. But if you get the play, then it can make OTKs in better plays to get your barriers a lot more effective. Like make a Necromancer and an Archfiend. That's basically all it's for.
Right. So, because I know some people may not have a lot of money to, per se, afford Transmodify, could you suggest a substitute for it if there is one that you feel could do it?
Honestly, probably just a second Forbidden Lance. Or maybe the 3rd Upstart. Like, you just need to keep your spell count relatively similar, maybe a little bit higher than what I have. But I prefer enough back row to be able to handle my own, and this is at least enough spells, I believe, for Monk. Whereas Lance is just a regular protection card. Falling Down works with Infernity Archfiend. It's a card from Archfiends that lets you take control of a monster if you have face-up Archfiends. I used to use it against things like Evil Swarms or to steal a Draco Sack. And it's actually been working pretty well overall, and obviously just everything is just a Monk target. So as long as it works semi-consistently with the deck, I feel like it can just push for pretty hard. Okay. Now one day, if you're going first, and you go into Chain, you can stack an Archfiend, and you can one day and draw the Archfiend and reveal it. And then your opponent can't do any damage to you, and you get multiple barriers out in your field. It's an extremely effective card, and I believe that it does a lot for Infernity plays, especially considering sometimes Infernity plays do not have the attack point push that they're able to actually originally use.
So, my question about, I guess, the 1 days, isn't it kind of bad though to give your opponent a free card?
It may be bad to give your opponent a free card, but you're giving yourself maybe 1 or 2 extra barriers. So I believe that being able to make that many extra answers to the 1 card they're going to get, you're basically getting maybe 3 or 4 cards for their 1. And I prefer getting 3 or 4 cards and letting my opponent draw than keeping 0 cards and having my opponent still have what they have.
Alright.
It's basically my attempt to plus a little bit harder than what my opponent already is. For my trap count, I have...
Gallery.
For my trap count, I have triple Infernity Break and triple Infernity Barrier as the Infernity traps. I don't use Reflector or Force or any of that crap because Infernity Break can banish an Infernity card, which means if you activate Launcher or have an Archfiend engrave, you can score a barrier that you've already used. You can destroy a card for free with Infernity Break. Or if you break, you can break again by paying with the break that you just used at a cost.
Yeah.
3 Infernity Break is extremely effective. Furthermore, Infernity Barrier is, it's a frickin' solemn judgment. You just gotta be careful and have an Infernity in attack mode. And you have to be able to protect that attack mode Infernity and keep your card hand empty, just like what the handless combo used to be.
Yeah, and as I know to people who have never played this deck, you will have moments where Necromancer is in attack mode, and you have to leave it in attack mode just to make sure the barrier is live. I did learn that the hard way.
That is terrifying in some cases. My last 4 traps for this deck are basically just trap staples, compulse bottomless, warning, torrential.
The quad trio thing for the format currently for anything not meta, even though there is no meta at the moment, is it still an undefined format?
Yes.
So
for my extra deck, I have, as I said, mostly rank 4 Xyz monsters and then a couple rank 3s that I can use on the side. The 3 rank 3s I use are Zen Mains and Double Leviair, which I use Double Leviair because it is a possibility that you will get double Necromancer multiple times, or you'll be stuck under macro and you'll want to get your Archfiends back. Zen Mains is an obvious defense card, which it's not as good as it used to be, but I still feel like it does pretty decent in this deck.
Alright, so a little question about the rank 3s then, because I also remember the monster you're not main decking. What's your opinion on Tour Guide of the Underworld in this? Because Tour Guide can get Necromancer, and then Necromancer can lead you to more rank 3s.
My original side deck for this deck had double Tour Guide of the Underworld, but that was last format. It could have triple. I'm still debating the side deck. What you're going to see is an extremely alpha version of the side deck for this deck.
But again, it's because new format, so it's not like we know what to side.
So I'm planning on using Tour Guide in the near future.
Alright, so would it be like a main deck thing, or...?
It'd be a side deck.
Why side Tour Guide?
Side Tour Guide, you get rid of your OTK plans to make a more conservative build, which would play around things like Macrocosmos, which is what people would use against this deck regularly.
Alright, I guess that makes enough sense.
Double Evolval Chain, double because you do summon both of them when you go off into your loop.
Do you feel like this deck could be played without a second chain? Because I know some people, again, have money issues, or...
It's very unlikely.
Okay, so double chain is unfortunately more of a necessity.
Now, sometimes you need to make a rank 4 that can protect your attack mode Infernity. The 2 that I would choose are Key Beetle and Utopia. Key Beetle is a protector card on every shape of the word and can also protect things like your launcher, whereas Utopia can stop attacks. So let's say you have in face-up attack mode Infernity, Archfiend, or Necromancer, and then 2 chains, and then like 1 random Xyz and a Utopia. Utopia is going to be your saving grace while you have 3 barrier in the back row if you don't have a break that you've already used.
Alright.
Maystroke the Symphony Djinn, Direwolf, Black Ship of Corn, and Gaga Cowboy are basically just random rank 4 Xyz staples that work in certain circumstances. To continue loops, you can use Diamond Direwolf on your own field or on your opponent's field to empty out your field and make more Archfiend plays, which then verily summon more Infernities. And get you more traps, obviously.
Alright, so the only question I got out of these 4 is like, why Corn? Because Corn's fallen off lately.
Corn has fallen off lately, but I've always believed that it could still be a good card, and I think that it's going to work well this format. I've summoned Corn a couple times lately, and it's actually knocked out a few things like Inox. I've been able to actually push through some Boojins using things like Direwolf and Corn, and it's helped. I can't really explain it too well. It has to be put on. It's really just something that I'm testing on pen and paper, and I have the room for it, and I'm not really a fan of Gemini Pearl.
Fair enough. And as a note to people, this card does kind of hurt Fire King, so since Corn doesn't destroy, so...
And that's what I've been playing against the most with this deck.
I am not any better to help with that.
2 that I've teched in are Crazy Box and Ouroboros. Evil Swarm Ouroboros, obviously, it's the Evil Swarm that takes 3 level 4s and has 3 different effects. I just think it's a good card.
Yeah.
And if I summon it, I summon it. Crazy Box is...
It's for the skill drain scenario, I'm assuming?
Crazy Box is either under the skill drain scenario or just outright, its effects are pretty wonky. Like, if I just want to go for...
If you just want to dick around?
Yeah, if I'm dicking around and I feel like I'm going to win, or if I feel like I need something that this thing can provide and I just can't get it any other way, might as well try and be lucky. We are out of the 6 cents format, so I guess we need dice for something.
Yep.
My 2 Instant Fusion targets, which I still have room for, obviously, are Darkfire Dragon and Cherubin the Fire Knight. Cherubin the Fire Knight is for Instant Fusion into rank 3s, and Darkfire is for rank 4s.
Okay, so Darkfire is because it's the dark. Is there... Does it matter what level 3 you use, or not necessarily?
The level, it's just pretty much either the Tour Guide, which I'm probably going to add, or the Necromancer plus the Cherubin. It can be any level 3 fusion, just has to be Instant Fusion targetable.
Okay.
Yeah, it's no preference, personally. For my side deck, which, as I said, it's in an alpha, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing with this, and frankly, I'm just, like, dicking around for the most part. I run double Imperial Iron Wall.
For Boojins, and does this bother your Stygians at all?
It does, unfortunately, but I try. It's just something that I feel like I can just work around.
Alright, so it's kind of like Medulches with Hootcake and Iron Wall?
Yes. I run double Mind Crush. Mind Crush is a nice card for when you're in the beginning game. You try and save a card so you can use it, and maybe for the mirror match. Mind Crush is really good against Infernities, personally. When they top deck Archfiend, they Mind Crush, you call Archfiend when they reveal. You don't get the effect. It's really unfortunate. Fiendish Chain, it's good. It's a good card. If I had extra room for back row, I'd probably main deck it. but it stops things that are on field, obviously. Goes in match for the goes in match. It's just like how I used it when E-Drags were a thing, so I just keep it around. Eradicator Epidemic Virus, because I have so many Xyz targets that I can use to use this card, and I feel like it can really help against spellbooks.
Alright.
I have 1 Breakthrough Skill and 1 Soul Drain at the moment. Soul Drain's limited to 1, obviously. I only have 1 Breakthrough Skill.
So would you side a second Breakthrough Skill if you had a second?
Probably.
Okay.
If I just had one within my vicinity, I would have probably run Breakthrough Skill, or I would have sided, or I would have not run Breakthrough Skill and run Torquates.
Alright.
I run double Night Beam because I like to use them against set Fire Fist formations, and also they're good monk targets, so I don't end up siding a bunch of traps and losing my monk plays. And I mean, if I want to summon Zephyros and search a Kalut, I have my Black Whirlwind. So my Black Whirlwind's just an excellent tech in Infernities. And it makes it so my Zephyros searches my Kalut and I can make awesome plays, or I can make a Black Rose play with my Zephyros Gale. You know what I'm saying? Infernities summon those cards all the time.
I think you can tell what deck he's a fan of, by the way.
Yeah.
It's obviously not Black Wings.
I
can tell you're a really big Six Samurai fan.
love Six Samurais. They're so good. Look at all of the awesome cards they can use, like Kageki.
And then no gateway.
Yeah, and that gateway that they use so well. But don't worry, we got 3 of these in Six Samurai.
So, any final comments you want to give about the deck?
I think that it's a really great deck that you can make, and it's very inexpensive now that Barrier's been reprinted.
Yeah.
The only problem is the extra deck, but I mean, hey, what deck isn't expensive with an extra deck these days?
That's kind of true.
So, if you want to run Infernities, I think that it'll be really good this format, and if it ends up not being after Bujin's become fucking broken in Legacy, then, well, I mean, it'll still be a really good stunny deck, and if you go, and it mainly revolves around going first. If you go first with this deck, you're going to do really well. If you go second with this deck, you have a pretty good chance, but I wouldn't put all my money on it.
Alright, well, I guess that's the deck profile, and let's go ahead and close it out with the Black Whirlwind one more time. Is that Black Whirlwind?
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.